All right, so what we're gonna do is see the record attempt that I did yesterday. After, well, I guess we'll also explain it here. All right, so we're gonna be going on the 56 over there. This is the third 50 I'm swimming today, 5 minutes in between. On the first one, at the very, I did a 23, no paddles, with a nice relay dive. Okay. On the second one, 23 easily. Okay. So we'll see. I don't know how the camera's going to work, but we'll figure it out. Spoiler, it doesn't work that well, but it shows us what we need to see. You know. Not much is happening here.
You can see the water here, right, where I'm going to touch, maybe.
We will not see where I touch
exactly.
Tomorrow. Spoiler alert.
Between the towels here, so.
Yeah. Now, let's watch for it. This is going to be the most awful cinematography ever. And next time, I will have to bring a tripod and properly film this. But we almost completely missed something. It'll be hilarious. We'll see it. So this is what we almost missed. Now, so I want to know, did I do a proper dive here, right? So with a relay dive, now, in a proper pool, there's a diving block that gets you a bit of an advantage. And if you're doing an individual event, you basically hear a sound, a big buzzer, and the light. Okay, that's when you're supposed to go. You're not supposed to swing into it in anticipation of it. Okay, that would be a false start. And they shoot you with a gun. That's the only time they use a gun now, is for a false start, right? But anyways, so it's a light and a buzz, and you cannot swing into it. You can't anticipate into it. You can only move when you hear it. However, there's no block here. So my compromise was I wanted to do a relay dive from the side of the pool. A relay dive is when you're having more people swimming, right? And then the rule there is you can start swinging into your dive, but you can only fully leave the block, which we don't have here. You can only leave the block when somebody touches. So you can swing into it, you can start moving into it, but you can only leave officially if someone's touched it. But you can swing into it. So I tried to swing into it from the side of the pool, okay? So to look at whether I properly left at the right time, I do cover up the time, but notice what happens here. If we go to this, so I'm leaving at the 00 at the 56. Notice what happens. We see the 59 here, right? I'm sort of starting to swing into it. If this was on an individual event, this won't count as a proper dive, but again, we're not doing that, right? So notice how it's 55-59, right? And I cover it up right as I dive, but notice what happens. It turns to 56. If you look really closely, it's 55-59, and we don't see the 00, but we do see that it changes to 6. So this is right when it turns to a 00. If we're doing a relay dive, this is perfectly good. This is almost good for a normal dive, right? And if we look at the little cursor thing here in the video application here, we see that I left on the 119.05. I also, this is just 30 frames a second. It can be 60 frames a second, but I forgot to set that too. So this is at 050, so basically at 119. But notice what happens here. When I leave the wall right here, notice what happens. So this is the last frame where I'm still, right? Okay, I'm off. That is the last frame where I'm still touching the wall, actually. And that is a 479. if we look at the cursor here, 19,479 right here. Now, we said 50, so that's about 4/10 of a second is how long it took me to go from, right. And that's generally what it takes off the block. It's about half a second to get off of there. But again, I said I'm doing a relay dive because I'm not on a block and blah, 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 right? But notice I basically left at the correct time, okay? And I'm in the pool half a second later. So if this was right where it hit 0 off of this, that would be a good relay dive. That would be a perfect relay dive, okay? And again, because it's not on a block, that gives you a blah, blah, blah. But this is a good dive. For a relay dive, we could have done a few tenths of a second better. But it's a decent dive. Last time there were concerns about when I was doing the paddle stuff of when do you leave. But with this is good. And especially with a dive, you can see it. Okay, so we're going to say this is a good dive. Maybe it's a slow dive for a relay start. Okay, just to compensate for the fact that you don't have a diving block that's a little higher. Okay, so this is a good dive. All right. So we write that down. 119,050 is when it hits 0. And then 479 is when we actually leave the wall. That's the last frame that we're still on the wall. Okay? So that's about 4/10 of a second. That's good. Now, all right, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just boring. There's going to be a bit of a splash here. Okay, well, hold on. That's a video error here. All right. Okay, we have to go back because it's stuck. Okay. There's people screaming in the background. So not much happens here. We can kind of fast forward. Okay, there's a photo bombing. This guy is like, hey, that's a camera. And, right? That's me coming back. All right, now, this is what's interesting. You can see it's a 23. Of course, because, this is cinematography by me. You can't actually see me touch, but we can deduce some things here, all right? What we can deduce is I definitely don't hit, the 22 is right here. This is where it changes. You can see on the left side here, you can see splishy splashy here. That's me. That is right as it turns to 20, you can see the water changing on the left here. And right as it turns to 23, you see it. So I don't think I hit right as it hit 23. Because, I don't think I hit that. Okay, obviously. However, once you start seeing my head, it's pretty obvious that I hit before 24. Why? Well, let's go to exactly where it hits 24. I mean, you can see if I let my head slide into the wall, I would have hit on 24 if I had to headbutt the wall, right? But, I kind of lift my head out a little bit, and that's the whole point. But what we can see here is even here, I'm probably touching the wall here, okay? You can see my head here. And again, I have long arms, right? I have pretty long arms, so I can hit it pretty well. And the fact that my head's out of the pool like this, that's because I want to look at the clock, right? I'm already touching the wall. And you can see basically the fact that my head isn't moving that fast, especially here, because I'm just lifting it out. Especially here, you can see that. Right? Like, I don't normally swim with my head out right? So my point is, if we say it looks like you can see the motion of my head here, who knows? I mean, the cinematography is terrible, so we can't exactly see where I hit. But it is well before 24. And that dive, especially if we're saying it should have been a relay dive to compensate for the fact that it's not on a block, this is easily 23. Because again, I could have head-butted the wall at 24, okay? Okay, like, this is where it turns 24. I'm basically kissing, I slow down so I don't hit the wall. It's still 24. It turns 24 as I'm already well stopped, right? I could have head-butted the 24. If that's how you would properly finish, you could head-butt this with a 24. Because I slowed down here on purpose because I'm already done. But again, it sucks that we cannot see my hand, and that's obnoxious. But I'm satisfied that even with the dive that I wanted to go a little, I wanted to swing into it, I still left on the zero basically. I swung a little bit into it, but not the full 4/10 of a second advantage there. Okay, so this was, even with that, it was a 23 something. Okay, 100% certain. I'm very happy with this. You know, I'm very happy with this because this shows I can do a 20. This was my record in high school, and I'm sure we'll talk about it here.
Yeah, I saw a 23 there. I don't know how the dive was though. Might have been a bit early, who knows?
Nope, it was the opposite.
All right, yeah, no paddles. So we'll see the playback,
We are seeing it now.
and we'll see.
The cackling
when I
has
left.
got to stop.
But that was pretty good, I think. So that's now 350s, around 23 something, maybe. Pretty good.
Indeed. So that's really good. I mean, I would imagine that with a better dive, a slightly better dive, we could see a 22, which would be not tying a record or because I never went below 23 in high school, by the way. I did quit junior year. I didn't do senior year, blah, blah, blah. But I never hit below 23, which was respectable. It was an A time that was top 15%, 10% maybe. So it's like, it was okay, but there were plenty of people much faster. I mean, I knew a guy on the team who did, when he went off to college, he was doing 20s, 20 something. So, it's there's people who are clearly much better, but, I'm not in high school anymore, let's just say, right? And to keep up with that and essentially be probably fast, because again, those are meet times, right? Those are meet times when, okay, you taper down and then it's competition. There's other people there. It's serious. You have proper diving block and you're not slipping off the slippery concrete by the side of the pool. The pool also kind of sucks. This is a 4-foot pool, maybe 4.5 feet. So the bottom, on the way back, I feel it bouncing, the lane ropes. Oh, lane ropes. Even like 20-something years ago, the meet sheets were always like, we have non-turbulent lane ropes. Non-turbulent lane ropes are these things that have little ridges so the waves don't do as much. It's not like swimming in an ocean where it's wavy. The problem is if they're not tight enough, it's still wavy. If the pool is shallow, it's still wavy. Now, I was swimming in one of the middle lanes, so I didn't have the wall bouncing off, because that makes you slower too, by the way. If you look at the Olympics or anything like that, the side lanes actually have like another side to them. So they also have a lane rope, and then there's a small little lane, right? So it doesn't bounce off the wall as much. But here, the lane ropes were not as good, they're not as tight. I think the reason is that either they don't give a shit, or if they're super tight and people all these hippos like go over it, that will break it. If they're super tight as they should be and people go over it, it's much easier to break these, and those are pretty expensive to replace. But the point is that the tight lane ropes are help. And if you have a deep pool, it absorbs it better. So, I'm fairly certain that right now, if I showed up at a meet, I could hit 22 something. Because again, with this dive, not off a diving block, that doesn't help. If you're higher and you can swing into it more, that helps. Okay. And right. So this is pretty good. And with competition, other people there, as long as they're kind of faster than you, it's a little more serious. It feels a little more, that helps. Now, one advantage I had today is I often, whenever I do these sets, these small sprint sets, I go in the sauna first, which is insane because, let's go in a 200-degree oven for 10 minutes and then, I'm all tired from that. So, that was the advantage today or yesterday with that. But I'm pretty happy with this. This is surprisingly decent. I think I'm getting a little faster, just doing all-out sprints. Again, I float in the pool like a turd for the other 20, 30 minutes. That's it. I'm doing basically a high-intensity thing where every few days I do sprints like this. Sometimes I do a kick sprint. Sometimes I just hop in the pool in the 5 foot deeper end because there's really no deep end here. Just hopping up and, just very powerful things. I do little sprints. I probably will do one today or tomorrow. And just on land, right? So I think that's been helping. It's kind of hard to know because, we're not talking massive changes here. On a mile swim, you could maybe see changes, but I don't want to do long distances. But anyways, I'm very happy with this. I'm going to keep doing this and see how well we can do this. But, swimming, 23, definitely a 23 is really nice. I like that, because again, I was always a little faster at meets, so I don't have a huge desire to show up at a meet just yet, but boy, I think I could do pretty well. So anyways, that's it for now. And yeah,